Hello, everyone, and welcome to another in our series of Success in Cardiology. I am delighted to be able to have with me today Dr. Joanna Lim, who is consultant cardiologist in Oxford and is also specialist in adult congenital heart disease. And in addition to this, is the current chair of the Women in Cardiology group at the British Cardiac Society. She's as passionate as I am about helping women improve and their standing. And she also has 3 children. So welcome, Jo. So lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Deborah, so much. And thanks for inviting me. I love this series. I think it's a brilliant idea. Thank you.
Thank you. So, a first question, what made you want to get involved in the Women in Cardiology group? What did you kind of envisage you could achieve there?
Thanks, Deborah. And so I would never have imagined doing a role like this kind of 5, 10 years ago. I had always been someone who I guess a lot of feedback has always been, needs to work on confidence, not confident enough. And that's hard feedback sometimes because then you say, well, how and why? Where do I get that confidence from? But in 2019, around about the time I became a consultant, I was really fortunate to join the British Cardiac Society Emerging Leaders Programme, which was a fantastic opportunity. And I met some very inspiring people. And also through that, we learned about coaching, which you obviously know about because you're a coach, but I didn't know about before then. And then I went on to work with a coach who was amazing, and it was really very transformative experience. And one of the key things she taught me was, she said, confidence is not a requirement, but is the result of frequent small acts of courage. And so that was really helpful and actionable and inspired me to sort of start saying yes to things as small acts of courage that I wouldn't have said yes to before. And through the Emerging Leaders Programme, I'd also met Rebecca Dobson and Shazia Hussain, who are 2 incredible women in cardiology who basically took over the Women in Cardiology programme before I, sort of around about 2020, and really just did amazing things with it and were very inspiring. And then when they were coming to the end of their term, and I was looking for something at BCS because I wanted to give something back, and then they suggested that I take this on. And so it was a big act of courage, and I did. And I'm very, it's hard, but very, very rewarding and really, learning so much.
And you're doing a wonderful job at it, I must say. The recent British Cardiac Society meeting was evidence of that. So, tell me also, tell me a little bit more about this emerging leaders program. Who gets into that? Is it just for cardiologists, or is it for anyone? Or
And so it's run through the British Cardiac Society. When I did it, it was for sort of senior trainees, or now resident doctors, early years consultants. But now it opened it up to the multidisciplinary team. So I think you do have to be a BCS member. But we were a cohort, I think, of about maybe 12, 15 of us, and it was a series of face-to-face workshops delivered throughout the year, and it was just incredible, all about leadership and NHS management, and you do a project as part of it, service development project, and met lots of wonderful people, as I said, and sort of was really quite transformative.
wonderful. Okay, so another thing that I know about you is that you have 3 children. So, can you tell me a little bit about how you have managed to have a successful career in cardiology and manage 3 children?
Thank you. So I'm from a big family. I have 3 siblings who I love wildly, and so I always knew I wanted to have children. Was fortunate enough that I did. I had so I had the children. I, it sort of coincided with the time when I was a registrar, and I had just it was I mean it was quite funny, really, in a not funny way, but my husband and I were living in Oxford, and I'd got a trainee position in Oxford, and we said, great, okay, we're going to settle here in Oxford now. And he's a police officer. He managed to move his job to Oxford. We bought a house in Oxford, and then I got pregnant with my first child. But about that time, I realised also that I wanted to actually specialise in adult congenital heart disease. And to do this, I wanted to go to London. And I was accepted onto a training program there, which was supposed to be a kind of 2 year training program where you move through all the congenital centres. So that obviously wasn't part of the plan. So, so, so I had the baby, and then we moved to London so that I could take up that job. But then it was quite complicated because his job was still in Oxford, and I had a small child, and so it was quite complicated. But I was very fortunate because I had great support from my family, and it was very interesting at that point going back to work because I remember talking to other new mothers about going back to work, and I remember feeling so grateful that for me, there was never any question about going back to work or not. And I think because it was I had real sort of clarity of purpose, and I realized how lucky I was. And, even I was at Great Ormond Street at the time, and it was, mothers speak a lot about guilt, right? And thinking, oh, you don't do a good job at work, and you don't do the best job at home, and you sort of feel guilty. But I made a decision very early on that I was not going to feel guilty because I realized, I didn't want my daughter to grow up thinking that you need to feel guilty if you're a working mother. Like, no, thank you. And also, it was very, we're so lucky as doctors because even at 1 year old, I say to her, I'm going to work now. I'm going to look after the children with the poorly hearts, and she could grasp, had some grasp of that. And that, so I felt really grateful for that. I feel, and I've always felt grateful for that, that I do something that matters, that I do something that I love. And I haven't, I felt guilty about lots of other things in life as it's my way, but I've never felt guilty about being a working mother. And I don't think we should.
I agree entirely, and I think you're an excellent role model to your children as well for doing that. Have you ever talked to them about how they feel about you going out to work?
Oh yeah, I do. And they actually and inspired by the fabulous Sarah Burkholzer, who I know works with you, because Sarah gave a wonderful talk about at BCS this year about her experiences with coaching. And one of the best bits was when she talked about how you'd encouraged her to talk to her children about what she thought and whether they thought it was good that she went to work or not. So then I came back from BCS and asked one of mine, do you think it's good that I go to work? And then he said, yes, so we can get food and so you can save people's lives. And, and then you go into school, and I went into school for science week recently and scanned their hearts and talked to them about that. And so I don't think it's something they have a question. It's just something that's sort of part of me, part of our family, and they can all, understand why I do it and are fully on board with it. So it's great. So yeah, so I had my first child, then I had it was meant to be a 2 year training program in London, but I then had two more children also, and was part time. So I sort of sat in this role for about five years, which is probably a bit greedy, but it was a great experience, and I'm really grateful that I was able to do it. And that was working at 80%, and that's what I continue to do 4 days as a consultant. My husband has a day off a week as well, so we kind of juggle things that way.
Mhm. So that's very interesting because I know that there are a lot of women who are hesitant about accepting something that is officially on paper part-time for fear that they will end up working full-time and being paid part-time. So has there been anything like that for you, or have people always been fair?
Be honest, but I don't really think about that because I think maybe this isn't right. I don't know, but for me personally, I think one can always compare, and I guess you will always find somebody who's working less hard than you and being paid more, or you always find someone probably who's also working harder and being paid less. But I think that once you sort of get into that kind of, for me, when I get into a kind of state of comparison, I find that unhelpful, and then I think and whereas I just try to think, what, I'm really lucky, like I have enough. I'm really lucky. I get paid well, like we all do, and I get to spend time with my children. And so yeah, so I'm grateful, and I'm sure you, if you could break it down, I think it is really common. I think yes, definitely, yeah, objectively, when you work part-time, I think people get a good deal out of you. But it's not something that I really dwell on.
Hasn't bothered you. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about just success in general. What do you think if you were giving advice to a young person just starting out in cardiology, or maybe even just considering a career in cardiology, what would be your words of wisdom for them as to how to make it in cardiology?
I would say, like I do to everyone, I say do something you love, or do something that matters, or ideally do something that you love and that matters. And I think for me, I always feel so lucky because what we do as cardiologists, it really matters. And I love it. And I think that, I get sad when I hear people, people being put off and people say, oh, you can't have work-life balance, or whatever. But because you totally can. And there's loads of wonderful women I know in cardiology who are, doing this kind of juggle of, and men too, this juggle of family and life and cardiology. And of course, it's hard, but I think whatever you do, everything's hard, isn't it? And I think so. If you love, if you love it, and if you know that it matters and you're making a difference in the world, then that's great. So I think if you like it, then go for it and find people who, find, everyone says this always, don't they, like sort of find mentors, find role models, all these things. But I think it's so important. Find people you can talk to and find people you can have, those difficult conversations with. When I decided I wanted to do adult congenital heart disease, I remember I was lucky enough to be introduced to some amazing um, women ADHD consultants who I remember sitting down with them and them just sort of saying to me outright, okay, so do you want to have children? What's your plan? When are you planning to do that? And it was such a relief to be able to feel like I could have those conversations. And so I think it's really, great. Find people you can have those conversations with. And that's what we try to provide at Women in Cardiology within BCS, is this network of people we have across the country. So we hope that everybody will have someone in their patch. And if you're interested, and you can email us, we're wic@bcs.com, and we link people up with their local WIC community. So you can go and talk about these things and kind of thrash this stuff out, because there's always someone who's been there before you who can help.
That's really great. So, you said that your inspiration really to go for at least to go for the lead of women in cardiology was just to kind of, in a way, push your comfort boundaries. Um, but this idea of courage is also very, very interesting in other things. So when you're going for a job, when you're going for an interview, when you're selecting which job to go to, what we hear is that women feel that they need to be absolutely qualified, able to tick every single box with the perfect CV before they apply for a job, whereas men will just go for it in the hope that they might get it. Of course, often they do, and they learn on the job. So I think that has a lot to do with what you were saying as well about courage. So I suspect even before 2019, when you had your coaching, you must have been stepping out just a little bit, doing things that felt that you weren't ready for them. So is that something that you would advise people to do, to really just push a little bit, go for things that you're not quite ready for?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? I think, we all sort of worry about failure, don't we? And I think it's hard when you go for these positions and you think, oh, what if I don't get it? And what will people think? And I mean, that's my life's work, to care less about what people think. That's another that's a whole other story. But I think, yeah, absolutely, go for it, because you think, if not me, then if not you, then who? And yeah, I think you learn so much from doing these things, and it's a chance to make a difference, isn't it? And I think one of the things we're really proud of this year is, within our Women in Cardiology committee, we've had 4 people from our committee who've applied for other positions within the British Cardiac Society, and they've all been successful, which is incredible. And so I feel so proud of them for putting themselves forward for that. So yeah, I think that's it. It's just sort of, yeah, as I said, small acts of courage and asking yourself, am I am I getting in my own way here? I think I do that a lot sometimes. So, am I talking myself down from something, or what am I stopping myself from doing here? And kind of, yeah, sometimes you just need to get out of your own way, I think.
Yes, well, I think we are all in our own way to some extent. So that's a very valid point. So yes, get out of your own way. And there are techniques for doing that, which coaching will sort out for people. So if you could talk to yourself, so let's say you were now a 20-year-old about to go into cardiology or about to go into, meds as a medical student, thinking about maybe being a cardiologist. Uh, what would you tell yourself if you were going into it now?
I think I just say you can do it. Like I think I didn't. I remember when I didn't do cardiology as a student at all, and then I did it as an F1, and I loved it, and had this incredible mentor consultant called Susan Connolly, who's now a consultant in Ireland, who actually I got back to come and speak at WIC dinner last year. She's amazing, and she was just so great. And I had some amazing registrars as well, um, who were just brilliant. And I remember thinking, oh, this is really cool. I really want to do this. But then thinking, oh no, but you have to be really clever to be a cardiologist, and it's, I wouldn't get it, and people wouldn't, just again all that kind of those sort of unhelpful doubts. But then I remember speaking it aloud for the first time when we were on CCU one day when one of the registrars said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, I think I want to do cardiology." And then they were all so supportive and and that was really affirming. And then I thought, okay, it's okay to say this. Like I can go for this. And so yeah, so I think I would say to people, if you think you're interested, don't be afraid to speak your interest, because once you say to people, I think I'm interested in this, people love it if you're interested in what they're interested in. And people really, get on board and will want to help you, because yeah, because it's a shared passion, isn't it? So I think that's what I would say to people starting out. If you think you might be interested, then say that you are, and talk to people, and then you can always change your mind afterwards. But I think it's good to yeah to say that, say it out loud, and go and express an interest, because then people will be interested in you.
So I think that's wonderful advice, except that certainly, perhaps more in the past, and I'm sure it is getting better, when women in particular express an interest in doing something like cardiology, this is often where the messages start that say, oh, you can't. You can't do that. Oh, don't do that. No, you'll never be a good mother. You'll never be a good cardiologist. You'll never get a great job. It's all the old boys network. So now I know that the Women in Cardiology is definitely trying to address that, um, and make it not the case. But there is just that little risk when you start telling the people around you that you're interested in doing, let's say, even if you are a cardiologist already and you start expressing an interest in being an interventional cardiologist, you get the same sort of, oh, really, is that a job for a woman? Sometimes. Now, I know that it's improving, but sometimes. So if someone does get that sort of response, where can they go to kind of
Yeah.
counteract it with a bit more support from somewhere else?
It's nonsense, isn't it? It's absolute nonsense. So, if that's you, then I want to know that. So then please can you email us, which is wic@bcs.com, and then we will talk to you and and set the record straight, because it's just nonsense, isn't it? Like it's
Yeah.
absolute nonsense.
Absolutely. There
So
are
yeah,
so many now.
it's
There are so
nonsense.
many really successful women who've been really successful in cardiology. I mean, I've been interviewing a number of them, such as yourself, and including in intervention and electrophysiology and, academic cardiology and all the things that are still very much underrepresented by women. So, we hope people are not still putting them off, but I know that there has been a little bit of that. So yes, go to the people, women in cardiology, go to Dr. Joanna Lim, and she will put you straight that absolutely it is possible. All right. Thank you very much, Joe. That was really lovely. And is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you would really like to say to um, the people that you know who the audience is for this type of interview series? So what else would you have to say to them? Just one word at the end, or
Just yes, come and be a cardiologist. It's great. It's great. So yeah, come and be a cardiologist and let us know if you're interested, because we would love to hear from you and have loads of opportunities and things going on for people at all different stages, students, foundation doctors, IMTs, so on, so on trainees. So I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
thank you very much. Lovely.